about in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with the guy who literally stalks her. To a MAGA conservative movie. We're just trying to represent the values that Snow White is based in. The timeless values that we all love.
And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a timeless tale that has enchanted audiences for generations. However, when Disney announced a live-action remake, initial excitement quickly gave way to controversy. Fans were left shocked and frustrated by several creative decisions, leading many to turn their attention to an alternative adaptation. The Daily Wire's take on the classic story. Reports suggest that this development has left actress Rachel Zegler furious. The controversy began with Disney's casting of Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, as Snow White. While diversity in casting is often welcomed, critics argued that this particular story, deeply rooted in European folklore, should have stayed true to its cultural origins. However, it wasn't just the casting that sparked debate. Ziegler's own comments about the original 1937 animated film added fuel to the fire. She described it as creepy and stalkerish, particularly criticizing the romance between Snow White and Prince Charming. She also suggested that the new version would abandon the traditional true love's kiss storyline in favor of a more feminist approach. These remarks angered longtime fans who felt that the film's romantic themes were integral to the story. Critics argue that while modernizing fairy tales can be meaningful, it should not come at the cost of disregarding their historical and cultural significance. Meanwhile, the Daily Wire's announcement of its own adaptation, which promises a faithful retelling of the classic tale, has gained significant traction. Many fans disillusioned with Disney's reinterpretation are now gravitating toward this alternative version. This development has only deepened the divide between those who favor traditional storytelling and those who advocate for reimagined. Narratives in Entertainment.
Prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has been a beloved classic for generations, but Disney's decision to create a live-action remake has sparked widespread controversy rather than excitement. Many fans have been deeply disappointed by the creative choices, leading some to shift their attention to The Daily Wire, which has announced its own faithful adaptation of the original story. Reports suggest that this move has infuriated Rachel Zegler, Disney's Snow White. From the start, Disney's approach faced skepticism. The casting of Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, in the role of Snow White ignited heated debates. Critics argued that Snow White's German origins were an integral part of the fairy tale and should have been preserved. While diversity in casting is often celebrated, some felt that this particular decision ignored the cultural authenticity of the story. However, the casting was only the beginning of the backlash. Rachel Zegler's own remarks in interviews fanned the flames further. She openly criticized the original 1937 animated film, describing it as creepy and stalkerish, particularly regarding the relationship between Snow White and Prince Charming. She also hinted that the live-action remake would abandon the traditional true love's kiss storyline in favor of a more feminist reinterpretation. Fans were divided, with many arguing that these changes stripped the story of its core themes and timeless charm. One frustrated fan summed up the general sentiment: "This is no longer Snow White. It's just a completely different movie using..."
And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things. And I will.
Fans saw these themes as central to the heart of the original story, and Disney's drastic changes only fueled outrage across social media. Many accused the studio of pandering to modern sensibilities at the cost of authenticity. The backlash grew so intense that Disney eventually backtracked on one of its most controversial decisions, the removal of the Seven Dwarfs. However, their solution only made things worse. Instead of casting actors with dwarfism, Disney chose to use CGI-generated characters, a move that was met with even harsher criticism. Viewers slammed the CGI for its lifeless, uncanny appearance, while others lamented that real actors were excluded, missing an opportunity to highlight genuine talent. Even David Hand, a former Disney designer and the son of one of the original directors of Snow White, voiced his disappointment. Calling the remake an insult to his father's legacy, he criticized Disney for losing touch with what made the classic so special in prioritizing modernization over storytelling. As Disney struggled to contain the fallout, the Daily Wire saw an opportunity. Known primarily for political commentary rather than filmmaking, they announced their own adaptation of Snow White, one that promised to stay faithful to the original fairy tale without injecting modern politics. Their version aims to retain the classic themes of love, bravery, and innocence, while still making the story engaging for today's audience. Brett Cooper, cast as Snow White in the Daily Wire's adaptation, expressed her gratitude for the opportunity and her commitment to honoring the original spirit of the tale. The film's trailer was met with overwhelmingly positive reception, with fans praising its respect for tradition. As audiences compare Disney's remake to the Daily Wire's adaptation, many have speculated that the latter could even outperform Disney's version at the box office. One thing is clear: fans are eager for adaptations that respect the source material. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler remains a focal point of backlash. Her controversial comments, coupled with her divisive public persona, have left many questioning Disney's decision to cast her in the first place. Calls for Rachel Zegler's removal from Disney's Snow White have only intensified, with critics arguing that her controversial remarks and divisive public persona have actively damaged the film's reputation. Rachel Zegler is single-handedly destroying this movie. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper's approach in the Daily Wire's competing adaptation has received widespread praise. Fans have lauded Cooper's commitment to honoring the original story, a stark contrast to Zegler's openly dismissive attitude toward the classic fairy tale. The drama surrounding Disney's adaptation doesn't stop with the film itself. It extends to personal tensions between Zegler and her co-star. Gal Gadot reports suggest that their opposing political stances, particularly regarding the Israel-Hamas conflict, have fueled further controversy. Ziegler's public support for Palestine has drawn both praise and criticism, dividing the fan base. Gadot's vocal stance for Israel has also led to boycott calls from some groups. The result? A fractured audience, with some refusing to watch due to Gadot's involvement, while others reject the film because of Zegler's remarks and portrayal of Snow White. In contrast, the Daily Wire's adaptation has remained drama-free. Fans have applauded Brett Cooper's respectful tone, as well as her humble approach to the role, which many believe stays truer to the spirit of the original fairy tale. As the rival adaptation gains momentum, rumors have emerged about Rachel Zegler's frustration with the Daily Wire's version. Allegedly, she's furious about the competition, especially after Brett Cooper publicly addressed the controversies surrounding Disney's version. According to reports, when asked about Cooper's adaptation, Zegler allegedly responded, "But with audiences increasingly turning away from Disney's version, the question remains, will Snow White 2025 be a defining moment in Hollywood's culture wars, or just another costly misstep for Disney?"